Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive with me. And
Hi, everybody.
today we're exploring light.
Yeah.
And
So that's bright.
yeah, well, we're not talking about like light bulbs or the sun or anything like that.
Right.
We are looking at light as a metaphor
Okay.
in the Christian faith.
Interesting.
And the source material that we're going to be diving into is a sermon
Okay.
called God with Us the Light.
God with us the light.
Yes.
Right?
And it's interesting because it actually uses a lot of biblical passages,
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
kind of explore this idea of light as a symbol of God's presence
Okay.
and what role light plays, in the whole Christian faith.
I see.
So,
I'm intrigued.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It starts right from the get-go with those first lines of the Bible.
Oh, wow.
Let there be light. Genesis 1.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And, that's kind of like a blueprint, I feel like, for understanding, how light is used throughout the whole Bible.
Yeah, so like setting the stage right up front. This is going to be important.
Yeah. And it goes right into a pretty bold statement that God is light.
God, I.S. light.
Not
Yeah.
just like a creator of it,
Mm-hmm.
but light itself.
Okay, that's an interesting distinction for sure.
Yeah. And that, bringing light into existence was God's first act.
Right.
It's like the very beginning of everything,
Right. Order out of chaos.
Yeah, like this burst of power and
Yeah.
divine power.
Yeah.
And it even goes so far as to quote 1 John 1,
Okay.
which, says God is light and in him is no darkness at all.
Right. Right.
So it's kind of like drawing this line in the sand.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a clear distinction.
Yeah, God is the source of everything good and true.
Yeah,
And that's represented by light.
got it.
So, but then it goes on to, distinguish between the sun's physical light
Yeah.
versus like the spiritual light that comes from God.
Okay, so the physical and the spiritual.
Yeah.
And this is where it brings in the story of Jesus.
Okay.
And specifically, that scene with the shepherds in Luke 2,
Okay.
witnessing the birth of Jesus.
Yeah, I love that part of the Christmas story.
It's so powerful.
Yeah, the shepherds like
Yeah.
often overlooked,
Yeah.
kind of the lowest rung of society at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
They get to be the first ones to experience this.
Yeah, and it's a statement about God's love for everyone.
Exactly.
And-
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Love for all.
yeah, and the sermon even highlights a specific painting.
A painting.
Matthias Stom's The Adoration of the Shepherds.
The Adoration of the Shepherds.
Have you seen this one?
I have, yeah. It's quite striking.
Yeah, and he uses this really strong contrast of light and dark.
Oh, yeah, the chiaroscuro.
Yeah.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Very dramatic.
Well, the interesting thing is that the light is actually radiating from the baby Jesus.
Okay, so the light's coming from him.
It's not like shining on him.
Yeah.
It's coming from him.
Interesting.
It's like a visual representation of,
He's the source,
Yeah.
right? Not just reflecting it,
yeah.
but it's coming from him.
And there's this other detail in Luke 2 that I think also plays into this.
Right.
Like the angel says to the shepherds, do not be afraid,
Right. Do not be afraid. Yeah.
which I think is such a powerful message
Yeah.
of hope.
Hope and reassurance.
Yeah. Even when things are uncertain,
Mm.
even when it's dark.
Yeah. God's light is there to guide us.
Yeah, and in this case, it's, literally embodied in this baby,
That's right.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And the sermon goes on to talk about how Jesus himself actually claims this title
What title?
of the light of the world.
Oh, wow.
And it references John 8,
Okay.
where he says, I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life.
Wow. That's powerful.
So it's not just, a nice metaphor.
Mhm.
It's like Jesus is directly linking himself back to that Old Testament
Right.
idea of God as light.
Yeah, so it's not just this abstract concept anymore,
Yeah.
but an actual person that
Yeah.
you can follow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought this quote that the sermon brings in was really interesting
Yeah.
from Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
He says, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that.
Right.
And it really gets at this idea that,
Light always wins.
yeah, there's always going to be darkness.
Yeah.
But this idea of Jesus as the light,
Mhm.
it offers a way out.
Yeah, a path to healing,
Yeah,
transformation.
exactly,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even a small spark can make a difference.
Absolutely.
So it makes you think about, even just our small acts of goodness,
Right.
how they can have this ripple effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not about, being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about just doing what you can
Right.
to make things a little bit better.
So we've got God as the source of light.
Right.
And then Jesus, who embodies that light.
Okay.
But where do we fit into all of this?
That is the question, isn't it?
And that's where the sermon takes a really interesting turn.
Okay.
Because it starts exploring how we are called to be the light too.
We are called to be the light.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm bright enough for that.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Because it goes to Matthew 5, where Jesus says to his followers, "You are the light of the world."
Okay, so what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like?
That's a big task.
Yeah, it is.
But the sermon uses some really vivid analogies to kind of break it down and make it,
to make it more relatable.
yeah, more understandable.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah, so let's unpack these and see where it takes us.
All right.
Okay, so we're back, and I'm really interested to dive into these analogies that the sermon uses.
Yeah, because how can we be the light? It's like,
Right.
it's a big concept.
Yeah, and it's almost like intimidating, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
What does that even look like?
Right.
It starts with this idea of like, remember all those different kinds of light bulbs?
We talked about before, spotlights, cozy lamps,
Yeah.
disco balls.
Right, all the different kinds.
The sermon uses that image to remind us that we all have unique gifts and ways of shining God's light.
So it's not this one size fits all.
No, no.
Like we all have to be this big spotlight.
Right, exactly. What
Right.
matters is that you're shining your light.
Yeah. And however that looks for you.
Right.
So you might be like a spotlight illuminating like a specific cause or issue,
Yeah.
or you're more like a cozy lamp offering warmth and comfort
Right.
to those around you.
Maybe you're a disco ball.
Yeah.
You know, just spreading joy
There you go.
and lightheartedness.
It really takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about comparing yourself to other people
Right.
or trying to be someone else's light bulb.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Let your light shine.
And the sermon makes this point that, you know, it's not just about having good intentions.
Oh, so it's more than that.
Yeah. It's about letting your actions
Right.
reflect
Right.
the light of Christ.
So actually doing stuff.
Yeah, like making a real difference in the world,
Yeah.
not just feeling good inside.
Yeah, exactly.
And remember how the sermon talked about that distinction between light and darkness?
Right. Separating the two.
Yeah, like being able to discern
Yeah.
what's good and true from what's harmful or deceitful.
That's huge, right?
Yeah, and that's part of being the light.
Yeah, because you have to know
Right.
what light even is
Yeah.
and what darkness is.
So that could be something big like speaking out against injustice
Right.
or advocating for people who are marginalized.
Or it could be something smaller, like
Right.
standing up to a bully.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Even just like little everyday things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like helping a neighbor or something.
Right, just small acts of kindness.
Yeah, it's all about shining your light
Yeah.
into those dark corners,
Into those dark corners.
you know,
Yeah.
bringing hope and healing.
It reminds me of that quote, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle.
I love that one.
You never know what someone's going through.
Yeah, you really don't.
And maybe that small act of kindness
Mm-hmm.
is the light that they need that day.
Yeah, it puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
And speaking of connecting with that source of light,
Okay.
the sermon talks about prayer.
Oh.
Prayer. Yeah, now this is something I struggle with sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it can feel kind of abstract.
Yeah, it can.
So how does prayer actually tie into all of this?
Well, think of prayer as like a direct line to God,
Okay.
who is the ultimate source of light.
Yeah.
It's how we receive guidance
Okay.
and strength.
Got it.
And it's also how we can intercede for other people.
So like praying for people who are struggling.
Yeah.
Or, you know, our leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Praying for peace.
Absolutely.
That's all part of it.
Yeah, it's about aligning our hearts
Okay.
with God's will and asking for his light to shine through us.
And that makes me think about how it's not just about what we do,
Right?
but also who we are at our core.
Yeah, like deep down.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Like reflecting God's love and grace.
Yeah, and you don't have to do it alone.
What do you mean?
We have a whole community
Okay.
of other light bearers
Yeah.
to support us.
Yeah, that's encouraging.
Right, and when we come together
Mm-hmm.
and join our lights together, think about how much brighter
Oh, yeah.
that light becomes.
It's like that scene in the sermon where it talks about the shepherds huddled together
Oh, yeah.
in the darkness, scared and confused, and then suddenly, bam, this angel appears.
Bathed in light.
Yeah.
And everything changes.
And it's not just that their fear is dispelled,
Right.
but they're like drawn together
Yeah.
by this shared experience.
Awe and wonder.
Yeah, and that's what I think happens when we choose to be the light.
Tell me more.
It's like it not only illuminates our own path,
Right.
but it draws other people towards the light too.
It's contagious.
Yeah, like this ripple effect,
Yeah.
this chain reaction of goodness
Right.
spreading outward.
Exactly. And remember what we said about
Mm.
light and darkness not being equal?
Yeah.
Light always wins.
Even a tiny spark can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So even when we feel small or insignificant,
Uh-huh.
our light still matters.
It absolutely matters.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, it's not about the size of the light. It's
Mhm.
about the consistency.
Yeah.
Just showing up day after day.
Yeah, and making those small choices.
And those little acts of kindness, they really add up over time.
Yeah, it's not about being the superhero.
Right.
It's just about being faithful
Yeah, just doing what you can.
in those little things.
Right.
Yeah.
And trusting that God
We'll take it from there.
will use those efforts.
Yeah, that feels a lot less daunting.
Right. It's not about doing it all.
Yeah.
It's about doing what you can.
Okay, so I get that, being the light isn't about being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's about showing up
Right.
and choosing to make those small acts of light.
Right.
But how do we know,
Yes.
where to even begin?
Yeah. Where does the light need to shine?
Yeah. It's like, where do we shine it?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think the sermon has some good advice on that.
Okay.
It encourages us to kind of look inward,
Hmm.
examine our own lives,
Okay.
our spheres of influence.
Okay.
Like, where do you see darkness
Mm-hmm.
that needs illuminating?
Okay.
What kind of light bulb has God given you
Right.
to use?
So it could be like big things like fighting for social justice.
Yeah.
Or it could be small things like
Where?
offering a listening ear
Yeah, absolutely.
or just a smile.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, those small gestures,
Yeah.
they can be just as impactful.
Right. It's not always about the big things.
Yeah, and it's not about doing it all at once
Right.
or having it all figured out.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Just start small,
Yeah.
one step at a time.
One act of light.
Okay,
And trust that God
we'll multiply it.
will take it from there. He'll
Yeah.
make it grow.
That makes it feel a lot less overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's not about us.
yeah.
It's about him working through us.
It's about being willing and letting God work.
That's it.
Yeah, and not being afraid to stumble or mess up.
Yeah, because we're all going to do that.
Yeah, because we're human.
We're human.
Yeah, and that makes me think about that experiment
Which one?
that the sermon talks about
Okay.
with those people who were blindfolded
Oh, yeah.
and walking in circles.
Yeah, in the dark room.
Yeah, without any visual cues.
They had no idea where they were going.
And they were completely lost.
Lost. Yeah.
And it made me think about how
Mhm.
many people are walking around feeling like that.
Yeah, lost and alone.
Yeah, desperately searching for some kind of guidance.
Yeah, just some direction.
Yeah.
Some light.
And maybe that's where we come in.
Maybe that's it.
We could be that light.
Walk alongside them.
Yeah, listen with empathy
Yeah.
and point them towards
Towards the source.
the ultimate source of light.
Yeah, beautifully said.
It's not about fixing everything.
No, it's not about having all the answers.
Yeah, it's just about being present
Right.
and offering compassion
Yeah,
and sharing that light that we've been given.
that's it.
This has been an eye-opening conversation.
It really has.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
I know there's so much more to this.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where it goes next.
We've been talking about how to be the light and all that,
Right.
but I think it's important to remember where it all starts.
Yeah, go back to the source.
Yeah, some of you keep saying God, I is light.
Right. Not just the maker of it.
Yeah, not just the creator.
But light itself.
Yeah,
And that changes everything.
it really does.
Like when you look at the whole Bible through that lens.
Yeah, those words, let there be light.
Yeah, back in Genesis.
It's like, whoa.
It's like light is woven into everything.
Yeah, the very fabric of creation.
Right. Reflecting God's nature from the very beginning.
It's mind-blowing.
It is, yeah. And it makes you see Jesus in a
Yeah.
whole new light, too.
As the light of the world.
Right.
It's not just a metaphor.
Yeah.
It's like a direct connection back to who God is.
Yeah, it all ties together.
So, okay, God as light.
Right.
Jesus embodies that light.
Mm-hmm.
But where do we fit in?
Yeah, what does it mean for us?
What does it even mean to be a light bearer?
Right. Good question.
Because it sounds kind of heavy.
It does.
Remember that passage from 1 John?
God is light, and in him is no darkness at all.
Yeah.
I think that's key.
Okay, so does that mean we have to be perfect?
No, not at all.
Okay, because that's not
No,
happening.
nobody's perfect.
Yeah,
So actually the sermon says the opposite.
Yeah.
It's when we admit our own darkness.
Oh.
Our imperfections, our struggles,
Mm-hmm.
that's when God's light can really shine through.
So, like, we have to be honest with ourselves
Yeah, and with God.
about where we need that light to work.
Exactly. You can't be a source of light if you're pretending you don't have any darkness.
That makes sense.
And that's where grace comes in.
Okay.
It's not about earning God's light.
Right.
It's about receiving it
freely.
freely and letting it change us.
So it's like that light exposes what needs to be healed.
Yeah, it shows us where we need to grow.
So even when we mess up,
Mm-hmm.
when we stumble,
Yeah,
God's light is still there,
always.
like waiting to guide us back.
That's the amazing thing about God's love.
Yeah.
It never gives up,
Even when we keep messing up.
especially when we mess up.
And when we come back to that light,
Yeah,
like ask our forgiveness.
that's when we become even stronger.
Oh, wow.
Light bearers.
Because we're not just talking about it anymore.
Right, you're speaking from experience.
Yeah.
People can sense that.
Yeah. They can tell when you've been changed by something.
Yeah, and it makes them curious.
It's like that Martin Luther King Jr. quote.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that.
Powerful.
It's about bringing something different
Yeah.
to the equation.
Not just fighting fire with fire.
Right. Love, compassion,
Yeah, forgiveness.
all those things.
That stem from God's light.
Exactly.
It's a challenge, though,
It is.
to like consistently choose light.
Especially when the world feels so dark.
Yeah, there's so much darkness.
Yeah, but the sermon's right about that.
Like it's a constant choice.
It is a daily commitment.
Yeah, to push back against the darkness.
Yeah, and to be willing to shine our light.
Even in like the unexpected places.
Yeah, where you least expect it.
Okay, so like how do we actually make a difference?
It starts with taking what we've been talking about
Okay.
and applying it to your own life.
Okay.
Where do you see darkness?
Mm-hmm.
What unique light bulb did God give you?
So it could be big things
Mhm.
like fighting for justice,
Right.
but it could also be those smaller everyday things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like just being there for a friend
Yeah, being a listening ear.
or just smiling at somebody.
Yeah, a random act of kindness.
Yeah, don't underestimate those little things.
No, they matter.
And we don't have to do it all at once
Right.
or have it all figured out.
Just one step at a time.
Yeah.
One act of light.
And trust that God will take it from there.
That's it.
That's a lot less overwhelming.
Yeah, it's not about being perfect. It's about being willing.
Yeah.
Letting God work through you.
Yeah, that's good.
It's about those small, consistent choices
Yeah,
to reflect God's light
I love that.
however you can.
Wow. This deep dive has been really illuminating.
It has.
I feel like I understand so much more
Yeah,
about what it means to be a light bearer.
me too.
It's not what I thought.
It's a journey.
Yeah,
So the question is,
Hmm.
what kind of light will you be in the world?
that's a good one.
Where will you shine?
Let that question guide you
Yeah.
as you go forth.
Go be the light.
That's a great note to end on.
It is.
So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into God with us, the light.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
And may you be inspired to shine brightly wherever you are.